The Twitter Files Part 2. That is the focus of tonight's angle. Now, a few years back, conservatives started noticing that their tweets weren't getting the traction they once did. Now, the common parlance became known as shadow banning, the effort to suppress or de-amplify the reach of certain voices. Now, this was so concerning that former CEO Jack Dorsey was brought before Congress to answer questions about it.
Are you censoring people?
No.
Twitter shadow banning prominent Republicans is bad. Is that true?
No.
Well, he was doing intermittent fasting then, so he could. Now, tonight, Jack Dorsey better be lawyering up because it sure looks like he lied under oath, playing kind of a game of semantics there. Now, a little over 2 hours ago, former New York Times columnist and free speech champion Bari Weiss began dropping more of those internal Twitter files that showed just how dedicated the company was to suppressing dissenting voices. For years, this was going on. The liberals of last century, remember, they used to relish in all these old stories about how conservatives blacklisted pro-communist sympathizers. But look who's doing the blacklisting now. Tonight we learned that, well, BE, otherwise known as Before Elon, they would have teams of Twitter employees build blacklists. They would prevent disfavored tweets from trending and actively limit the visibility of entire accounts or even trending topics, all in secret without informing users. Wow, now to their busy band of censors, they gave this an innocuous-sounding name, this outfit. They called it the Strategic Response Team, the Global Escalation Team. And included, and check this out, the head of legal policy and, ironically, trust, Vijaya Gadde, the global head of trust and safety, Yoel Roth, and subsequent CEOs Jack Dorsey and Parag Agrawal, and others. Now, there was a concerted effort then to cover it all up. Writing on Twitter's official blog in July of 2018, Vijaya Gadde insisted that we do not shadow ban, and we certainly don't shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology. And over time, this Twitter exec became more indignant.
One of the biggest problems with censorship is the fact that you push people underground and you don't know what's going on. And this is something I worry about.
Oh, come on. The only thing that kept that woman up at night was the possibility that conservative voices would somehow slip through the corporate censors. Now, the first name mentioned on this Twitter blacklist released tonight was someone the Angle first introduced to the national audience during COVID, Stanford's Dr. J. Bhattacharya. He was one of the 3 authors of something that came to be known as the Great Barrington Declaration, which contended with mountains of evidence that lockdowns were not just ineffective, but dangerous, especially for our kids.
The lockdown itself is not costless to life, and if you think about it, people have delayed cancer treatment. They've delayed going to the doctor because of even with severe heart disease. Parents have not vaccinated their children. The lockdown costs will, even in the short and intermediate term, have larger and longer health consequences.
Boy, was he right. According to Ms. Weiss, Twitter deemed his research so dangerous that it secretly placed him on a trends blacklist, thank you, Joe McCarthy, which prevented his tweets from trending. Dr. Bhattacharya will join us exclusively in just a few moments. Now remember, we just learned a few weeks back that this was all occurring at the same time Dr. Anthony Fauci's daughter worked as an engineer at Twitter. And other names listed by Weiss include prominent conservatives such as Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino. Since Angle was pretty much the first national platform to slam the lockdowns, I suspect my own name will pop up on some suppression list eventually. I hope so. During the spring of 2020, I myself noticed, and I believe I said it on the Angle, that the reach of my own tweets seemed to be oddly declining. But frankly, I think it was obvious to all of us. And one of the many questions lingering tonight is whether there was any contact between public health officials and Twitter execs that encouraged censorship, of course, for public safety. Of course, when any of us question big tech's motives or practices during this time, Well, we were all treated like paranoid conspiracy theorists.
You would hear all these congressional Republicans be like, why am I being shadow banned? Why did you ban my friend? All these things like that. And now we realize that that was a canard.
The right talks about censorship and shadow banning, which there's been no real proof of.
No real proof of. Well, the only thing held up was legitimate public debate and scientific discourse, of course. And there's plenty of evidence. And it was worse, by the way, than just mere suppression. Toward the end of Weiss's thread tonight, it becomes clear that some within Twitter leadership developed something like a God complex. In early 2021, Yoel Roth, again, ironically, the global head of trust and safety, then unwittingly fingered Dorsey for approving of the censorship and even used the word integrity to describe what they were doing. We got Jack on board with implementing this for civic integrity in the near term, but we're going to need to make a more robust case to get this into our repertoire of policy recommendations, especially for other policy domains. What does that mean? Twitter's mission originally was to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. But we see now, without a doubt, that all that was just a marketing campaign, because barriers were an integral part of their strategy to control and dominate the public square. Now imagine if Elon Musk had never bought Twitter. We'd never know anything about any of this. Well, it cost $44 billion. But now we see just how corrupt, how cutthroat, and how devious big tech is. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.